Welcome to the Arsenic Theory channel. Today I'll be talking about a subject that I recently wrote about on my blog, on my website that I just launched, called the Arsenic Theory, arsenictheory.com. And the article is called What is Normal? This topic had fascinated me for a long time. Ever since I started thinking for myself, which was probably around age 18 or 19, before that, parents and my friends, I guess, thought for me. But for the first time, I started looking around and questioning things and started asking big questions about life, about my place in life, where I came from, where am I going, all this all these perennial questions that pretty much everyone asks themselves at some point in their life, or I hope at least, they do. And one of them is, what is normal? And at some point, I'm sure you have asked yourself that question as well. What is normal? Am I normal? How do we measure whether we are normal and normalcy in general? We look around ourselves and we look at the behavior of other people, and we see if our behaviors match and correspond with others. We would consider that we are, sane, or insane if there is some kind of mismatch or lack of correlation. So, what is normalcy in a society? That question puzzled me for some time. And probably for like good 2 years, I was trying to figure out, am I normal? What is normal in the first place? At first, I thought normal is being a Christian. And for me, that was the norm. Going to church, believing God, believing the Bible, reading the Bible. That for me was quite normal. So, but is that really what normal is? And especially nowadays, probably since the year, I would say 2010, everything has been changing so rapidly and so frequently. Every year, it seems that there is a new norm on the table for us to swallow, for us to eat up and swallow. And it becomes very confusing. So, what is normal? In a philosophical and ethical sense, probably you cannot define normal anymore. The way I look at normal nowadays is as a statistical phenomenon. Whatever the majority or overwhelming majority of people do, that's what constitutes a normal set of practices or behaviors. And for instance, you can distill even normalcy down through the ages, and that would be very simple things such as having a family, procreate, meaning give birth to a bunch of children, or at least two nowadays, and obey all the social norms, such as saying excuse me, sorry, or be mindful and tactful when you are interacting with people in a social setting such as workplace. Avoid talking on controversial subjects such as religion, philosophy, politics. You can always argue about sports and aliens, but you cannot touch upon religion and politics. These are kind of taboo topics to speak about. These are almost like downers. They pretty much ruin everybody, every not only every party but also every conversation that you engage in. And people become increasingly tired in a conversation and when you bring up these subjects. Of course, people who are interested in these topics, they will talk with you about it, but only to a certain point, because at the end of the day, even I get exhausted talking about it. So, but going back to the original question, what is normal? Nowadays, for example, when you watch a Netflix show, even when you go to your therapist, um, you know, for those people that do that, uh, they will tell you that there is nothing normal, and you should just, what is normal is basically what you are born with, kind of your original state, if you will, your primordial state, whatever it might be at birth. That's what constitutes to be normal. And basically, if you feel kind of abnormal, your job is to conduct self-therapy or therapy with other people in order to reinstate yourself into that normal state, wherever it might be. And it could be anything. Kind of pretty much what they're trying to say is that every single person has their own individual normal state, and what you need to do is tailor make it to yourself, so that way you feel and you act, and um, so that way you feel and act normal. Is that really true? So there is no normalcy? There is nothing normal in this world? I'm not sure if it's of years, and pretty much in a majority of the world outside of the United States, there is sense of normalcy. And what normal to them means is have a family, have kids, and support and provide for your family, and obey all the customs and all the laws or all the cultural mores of your society. And if you do that, you're part of society. If you don't, then you get ostracized and become a rogue or a menace to the social order. You're outside, you're marginalized from the society. I think the reason many people agree that there is nothing normal anymore is because when they think of normal, they think of it in the colors of good and bad. That, if you're normal, you're good, and if you're abnormal, you are not good. What I propose and what I propose is not to define normal in a colors, in the definitions of good and bad, but define it from a mere statistical standpoint. Whatever the overwhelming majority does, that's what is normal, and everything outside of it is abnormal. But it basically means that this is not something that is practiced, or this is not something observed in the overwhelming majority. An overwhelming majority could be 35%, it could be 51%. As long as it is bigger than any other group, not necessarily combined, but any other single group, that's what makes it an overwhelming majority, that's what makes it normal. So if pretty much everybody or majority of the people around you have babies, have families, and have family barbecues on weekends, etc., and that's pretty much what normal is. Unfortunately, what happens is people misunderstand it and misinterpret, these aspects of normalcy, and which happens to pretty much everything that majority of the people do. They do misinterpret things, and what happens, they get into their head the idea that there is no normalcy. Nothing is normal. There is nothing that is normal anymore. And pretty, and at the end of the day, it is the individual's decision of what is normal. And you can do whatever you want, and your life boils down to mere experiences, mere living. And that's what normal is. And we hear that a lot, and we hear that a lot on Netflix shows. The most recent show that I've seen on Netflix where this idea of normalcy was poo-pooed is called Mr. Iglesias, where the comedian Fluffy, he's plays a teacher in the high school, and one of his students, a girl, I forgot her name, but in any case, you'll see her. She's a Hispanic girl, and she, claims that there's nothing normal, and she's kind of this, feminist protagonist of the show, and she also poo-poos American history, she poo-poos American legacy, so kind of goes hand in hand, I guess. If you don't like normal, you're probably going to poo-poo on the whole American heritage, which, obviously American history is full of different controversial events that happened and took place in the United States and outside of it, to what kind of atrocities were committed, etc. But I mean, at the end of the day, America is the best country in the world, and you cannot be poo-pooing it on every corner and criticizing it for everything they've done, because even considering all the all the different atrocities that were perpetrated by the United States, it's still much better than the rest of the world combined. So I still rather live in the United States, and I'm still proud of the American history, and more proud than the histories of other nations who have committed much more atrocities against their own people and than the United States. At least the United States never committed anything against their own people, as comparing to other nations such as China, Russia, the whole African continent, even the European nations as well. They were always targeting their own people. And America, I think, is a big exception in the historical retrospective. I think the religion defines normal as living a moral, good life, being a good, citizen, going to the church, giving alms to the poor. That's how usually religion defines of what is good or what is normal. These words are used interchangeably. Then, even in a scientific era, with the advent of Charles Darwin, the normal was defined as preservation and perpetuation of species and the survival of the fittest. That was kind of redefined to be the norm, basically meaning that you have to propagate, you have to create families, you have to perpetuate your species. That is what normal was, even in the scientific era. And nowadays we're kind of forgetting about everything else that came with this, that was used interchangeably with the word normal, and pretty much just left two words to define what normal is, and that is good and bad. And given the fact that all sorts of lifestyles are becoming more acceptable in a society, people not only question, but they are trying to basically destroy the idea of normalcy, because obviously they don't feel normal since it's a new lifestyle that they are living outside of creating a family, heterosexual, outside of heterosexual family with children. So pretty much everything outside of that, any kind of lifestyle that is propagated by society at large, is now becoming a normal. However, it is a new normal. So people are saying at the end of the day that, hey, there is nothing normal, because I don't want to admit that I'm living a bad lifestyle or a negative lifestyle. Therefore, therefore there is nothing normal. What I'm propagating is the idea that normal should not be frameworked in terms of good and bad, good and evil. Normal is a mere statistical occurrence in a society, nothing more. It's neither good or bad. It is a mere statistical occurrence. So, to be honest with you, there is no kind of large point I'm trying to make. All I'm trying to say that there is something that is normal and something that has been observed as normal for thousands of years. And like I mentioned, it is mostly about the family and propagation of species, something that we had derived from the previous eras and even scientific era. Now we are looking for a new framework, for a new methodology of identifying and defining what normal is. And until that comes, I don't think we should be thinking of normal in good and bad, and thinking it from a completely different perspective, from more natural and from more scientific perspective, which will give us a much more solid ground on which we can stand. So thank you for listening, and until next time on the Arsenic Theory channel.